In today's episode, we discuss one of the country's best wooden coasters, one that enthusiasts say just keeps getting better and better. Welcome to Airtime Traveler. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and as always, I'm joined by my wife and lovely co-host.
Hey, I'm Haley Grace.
And thank you for tuning in to this episode. It's weird. It feels like we haven't done this in a while, just because,
so
well, it's not just that, but like we recorded our last episode, we had to record early because we were out of town. Mm-hmm. So it's been almost a month since we recorded, which is crazy. So it feels like, I don't know, it feels a little rusty, which is kind of strange because it hasn't been that long, but
True.
We've gone months without recording before in between seasons, and so anyway, I don't really have any roller coaster news to talk about. There's not a whole lot happening right now, so all the parks are closing down. So it's kind of, we need to make it out to Silver Dollar City the next few weeks.
I've been saying that.
We got to plan that. That's true. We need to pick a day to go see the lights. So
yes, please.
Yep.
That sounds amazing.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Every year, you gotta go see the lights at Silver Dollar City. So.
Yes.
Yep. Their Kentucky Kingdom is doing their first Christmas event this year. Kind of doing the same. The Herschend always has, been.
They're very good.
Very big on their Christmas events, and so, like, Dollywood's always considered to have the best one in the country, with Silver Dollar City being like a close second. And so they're kind of trying to bring that to some of their other parks, and Kentucky Kingdom they just purchased a few years ago, so now they're finally moving that over. There's one thing that they're doing at Kentucky Kingdom they can't really do at Dollywood and Silver Dollar City, but they're turning one of their water slides into into sledding. Like, they're covering it in, like, snow, and, like, you can you're going to be able to sled down it on inner tubes and stuff. I'm like,
I want to do that.
Isn't that cool? I was like, that's pretty sweet.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. So, they can do that there because the water park is connected to the actual amusement park, where Dollywood and Silver Dollar City, it's a separate gate, so. But yeah, Kentucky Kingdom, they can do all that in one, which is pretty cool, so. So, yeah. Well, if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, first of all, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Here at Airtime Traveler, you probably figured it out. We do roller coaster history. But rather than doing the history of the roller coaster in general, we like to take one roller coaster. Each episode we like to take one roller coaster and do a deep dive into the history of that coaster. I'm a coaster enthusiast and have been for a long time, and my wife Haley is a member of the GP, or the general public. So I'm here doing the research and to tell the stories, and she's here to listen and to make me more interesting. And that's kind of how it goes here. So that's kind of how it goes in our normal social life too. So that's not just a podcast thing. That's just life.
Nathan's just he's very introverted. And so it anytime we try and go meet new couples to be friends with, he's always or even phone calls. He's the worst at phone calls.
Oh, I hate phone calls.
So don't ever pick up the phone to call him, because
it's like I'm better at talking face to face than I am with phone calls, because I feel like face to face you can, one, read their lips so it's easier to understand them, and two, you can read their body language. The phone, you get neither of those, and so I have a hard time sometimes understanding people and then not liking. I don't know. It's just the whole ordeal. So I dislike it. So if I have the option of do you want an email or a phone call? I'm like, email. Send me an email. I don't want the phone call.
See, and I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, things get done faster on a phone call.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure you call me more times a day than you text me.
Absolutely.
I'm almost certain that's every day.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like texting.
Which is so funny because I'm the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I probably call somebody once a day, if that. And it's usually you.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, that's kind of how it works here at the Airtime Traveler. So, by the way, something I'll just throw in here really quick. I totally forgot that this happened since the last time I recorded, but Spotify Wrapped was this past week. And that just reminded me, I need to look and see if if we can see statistics for some of the other services. Because we do all of our podcast hosting through Spotify, and then they distribute it out to other platforms for us. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious if I can see some of the statistics from those other platforms, or if I only get access to Spotify. So anyway, what I'm talking about right now has to do with Spotify specifically, but I know that we have other listeners on other platforms, so this includes you as well. Just want to say thank you to all of you that support the show.
Absolutely.
We when those statistics come back, and the amount of people that have listened have more than doubled from last December to this December, and just seeing that kind of support, it just. We've always said that, and we've said this 100 times for those of you that listen to the show a lot. We would be doing the show regardless if people listen. It's more for me to have something to do with my roller coaster hobby in between trips to the parks. But the fact that people have found the podcast and enjoy it, and I think that there was 60 people that this is the number one podcast that they listen to, just on Spotify. So I don't know what that means on other platforms, but so and that's not huge. Obviously, there's other theme park podcasts that probably have thousands of people that that's their number one podcast. But still, just the fact that there's 60 of you out there that are probably listening to every episode, and maybe a few more of you that
we love you guys.
Yeah, it's just even just a little bit of support that we have is way more than I ever thought we would have gotten. So just appreciate all of you for those of you that have made the show easier for us to do, because there's actually people listening. We appreciate the support, and we're gonna keep doing it. So
yeah, sounds good to me.
Those of you if you've been listening, that after this episode there will be one more episode this season. So that'll be, I think, like the day before or after Christmas. It's like right around Christmas is that last episode this season. And then we'll take a break from January to the first week of April is when we'll jump back on. Now, we'll have one or two bonus episodes thrown in there just whenever we get the time to record them. But it just kind of gives us a break from the regular schedule of actual episodes. So
right, we do have a lot going on these next few months.
Oh yeah, well, and the end of the season is always hard because November and December really is just insanity with the holidays, and so finding the time to cram in research for the episodes and the time to record them is kind of a pain sometimes. So it's nice after the holidays are over, we can take a break from the holidays, but also from the podcast just for a little bit. And it also gives me a chance to get caught up on my research and try to get ahead of the curve a little bit. So, anyway, but usually when the season comes back, it comes back strong, and we have a lot of people tune into that first episode of the season. And I have no doubt that this next season 4, will have the same thing. So, appreciate you all that have given us support. If you want to support us even more, the best way you can help us out is by leaving a 5-star review, or not even a review, just a 5-star rating for the podcast.
Tell your friends about us.
Well, yeah, you can word of mouth, and telling other coaster enthusiasts or other people that just enjoy theme parks or history. Just telling other people is a great way you can help us. The 5-star ratings helps our search engine optimization on the platforms that we're on, so it helps people find the podcast in the future. It's not for our ego. It's not to say, yeah, we got 5-star rating on the. No, it really just helps people find the podcast. It improves our, makes it easier for.
It improves my ego.
Well, there you go. It improves Haley's ego. So. We have 4.7 on Spotify right now and 5 out of 5 on Apple Podcasts. So there you go. There's for your ego.
My ego has been heightened.
And our Spotify one, I think I saw this on the Wrapped. It went from 4.5 to 4.7 over the last 12 months. So yeah, we're moving up in the world.
Heck yeah, man.
So. With all that being said, let's dive into our topic for today. So it's kind of funny, actually. We're talking a lot about Silver Dollar City and Herschend. We're doing another Herschend episode today because we're going back to Dollywood. So, yeah, we started this season with Dollywood. I was going to end the season with Dollywood, but I decided to bring back something kind of unique that we did in season 1 for the end of that season. We're going to do it again for the end of season 3 in a couple of weeks. We're going to talk about a coaster that was, it was like, it wasn't sold, but like it was developed and then announced and then it never happened. So that's kind of, we did that for the Stratosphere Fishhook coaster back in season 1, if you remember that one. Yep. So we're going to talk about another coaster kind of in that realm in a couple weeks. So I figured, okay, well, for the coasters that are, operating today, we'll start and end this season with Dollywood. Why? I don't know. That's just kind of how it happened. So, so we're talking about Thunderhead at Dollywood today. Now, when we went to Dollywood, if you've listened to our trip reports, you know this, but Haley did not get to ride the coasters at Dollywood.
So sad.
We'll get back there one of these days, and we were really wanting to this year, and it just finances didn't pan out the way we wanted it to. But so we got to get back to Dollywood so that Haley can actually get on Thunderhead and all these other coasters. But she was pregnant at the time, which doesn't really the pregnancy and roller coasters don't mesh well.
Yeah,
so
they don't mesh well. They don't mesh at all.
Fair.
At all.
Fair. So, but she did get to go to Dollywood. Like she was there. We had the kids. I guess it was just one kid at one point.
That's weird to say.
Isn't that crazy? So, I mean, it makes sense. You were pregnant, so we didn't. Harmony wasn't here. We did have both. One's just you were just pregnant with one. So yeah, but yeah. So that's why our trip report, Haley was able to at least give some input on like the food and the atmosphere and some different things. But she hasn't been on any of the coasters, so she hasn't been on Thunderhead. That was kind of a weird trip all around, just because my dad had a head injury he was dealing with, and so he didn't get to ride anything. And so I was riding with my brother the whole time because my mom doesn't do coasters, and my brother was 7 at the time.
Yeah, Kiersey rode with you.
That's true. My sister, my brother-in-law, and also a family friend of ours was there. She rode some stuff too. Mariah was there with us.
Oh, that's right.
So it was just kind of an interesting trip. That, who I would usually I'd be riding with Haley next to me, and my dad would be riding with my brother, and instead neither my dad or Haley were on there with us. So it's kind of a strange trip, but
yep.
So, but so Thunderhead at Dollywood, this is the wooden coaster at the park. So you remember there was at one point Parker was sleeping and you and my mom found a bench in the shade.
Oh, yeah.
That coaster was to your back where you were sitting. That's where Thunderhead was, kind of over by Mystery Mine. And then if you walk up towards Mystery Mine, then back that way towards Dragonfly or Big Bear Mountain, kind of all in that area towards the front of the park.
Yeah.
So
I knew that spot because we sat there for a long time.
Yeah, well, we found a bench in the shade and it was
wonderful.
Yeah. So.
We're staying here forever.
Yeah. The toddler is sleeping. Don't disturb him.
Oh, yeah. We loved it. We'd be like, okay, we'll catch you later.
Yep.
Like, maybe never, but,
At least until after he wakes up.
Oh, yeah.
So Thunderhead opened in 2004 at a cost of $7 million. changed this. This statistic is wrong. This is from last week. I don't know why I didn't change that. 100 feet. Actually, I can find it right here. I didn't. It still has last week's statistic for how long the coaster is. I'm like, that's not. No. At least I knew that. I looked at that. I'm like, that's not right. There we go. 3,230 feet long, 100 feet tall, and a top speed of 54 miles per hour.
Was it actually $7 million?
It was actually $7 million. I know
that's
that
a
one.
Lot of money.
It's interesting because we talked about the Voyage last episode. And that one was $6.5 million and is like way bigger than this one. So it's just kind of an interesting thing that kind of happens from coaster to coaster. Average 2024 wait time was 17 minutes. So not too bad. So it is 20 years old. There's a lot of newer coasters there. And so
there's a lot.
Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me that the wait time's kind of fallen a little bit. In the brand new 2024 Coaster Bot rankings, because they just came out this week.
Wow.
We'll talk about that in a bonus episode in the near future. But so these are brand new rankings. Ranks at number 55 in the country. Ranks below other wooden coasters such as Ravine Flyer 2 at Waldameer, Boardwalk Bullet at the Kima Boardwalk, and the Legend at Holiday World. Ranks above other wooden coasters such as Renegade at Valley Fair, Prowler at Worlds of Fun, and Texas Stingray at SeaWorld San Antonio. So,
wait, it's above that?
It's above Prowler. It's above Prowler. So,
I liked Prowler.
Prowler's super good. So, and to be fair, I actually do have Thunderhead ranked above Prowler in my rankings as well.
Really?
So,
man, that makes me really want to ride it.
So it's built by the same company. It's a GCI coaster. So GCI wooden coasters
to get pregnant until we go to Dollywood.
Until we go to Dollywood again. Dollywood actually ranks number 2 among all the coasters there. Number 2 at the park. Now, which is an interesting thing because from a GP perspective, probably not. Because you got Big Bear Mountain and Wild Eagle and Mystery Mine that are probably more geared towards the general public. But just, talking to enthusiasts, Thunderhead continues to be really highly rated among enthusiasts. So
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So Lightning Rod is the obvious number 1.
Right.
Thunderhead comes in at number 2. Tennessee Tornado. We've talked about this. I don't know what it is about enthusiasts in Tennessee Tornado. They love the heck out of that ride. And it's just so, I don't know. I just caught it on a bad day, but it was slamming my head around in those old aerodynamic over-the-shoulder restraints.
I would hate it.
It was, like, I get it. Like, it's really, the first drop is awesome, because you, like, drop into the side of the mountain, into a tunnel, and then when you come out of the tunnel, you go directly into a vertical loop, and, like, had the very first Batwing element, I think, if I remember correctly. So it's a really unique ride, and its historical significance is very, very important. But man, I don't get the hype. So Big Bear Mountain comes in at number 4, which is crazy too. To have Big Bear Mountain above Wild Eagle, like just the massive wing coaster or the launched family coaster, but.
Big Bear Mountain's fun.
It is fun. Like, they have
the best song in the entire park.
Big Bear Mountain.
Big Bear, I'm looking for you.
Good old Dolly. So.
I love Dolly.
I knew. I should have a clicker for how many times Haley says I love Dolly in these Dollywood episodes.
I love Dolly. Did you see the thing that side note, did you see the thing that she's like doing an open cast for her new musical that she's coming out?
Oh, I feel like I saw something about that. That sounds familiar, but I must have just seen it in passing or something.
She's just so cool because she's just like, I believe.
Oh, that's right, because it's for the new show at Dollywood, right?
It's either at Dollywood or on Broadway.
Oh, it might be on Broadway.
I think it's Broadway.
You might be right about that. I can't remember, but
yeah, she truly believes that anybody that doesn't have a shot in life, like in the acting world, should have an opportunity. Well,
she would be the one to believe that,
I know. Well, she came from nothing.
She did. She lived here in Pigeon, in Sevierville, and where there was nothing at the time, and then
Yep.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy.
Yep.
So, yeah, Big Bear Mountain at number 4, Wild Eagle at 5, Mystery Mine at 6, followed by Fire Chaser Express, Dragon Flyer, Blazing Fury at 9, and then Whistlepunk Chaser at number 10.
Oh.
Review of the name. I think Thunderhead is a really good name. Like, there's a lot of coasters that have thunder in the name. You got, like, Big Thunder Mountain, and you got Thunderbird, and you have Thunderbolt. Like, there's... and so, in a sense, it's kind of overdone. But I don't dislike it. Like, I think it's a... And I think Thunder works really well with wooden coasters in particular, because the rumble of thunder and the rumble of the of a wooden coaster. So we'll get to the name in a minute, and it actually has kind of a double meaning too, which made me appreciate the name even more as I was doing my research.
Double meaning.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
They didn't just go, that sounds cool, we'll go with it. Like, there's actually kind of a story behind the name, which is impressive. So
with coasters before, so.
Review of the paint scheme and the trains. Not much to talk about here. I mean, it's a wooden coaster, so it's not painted. And the trains don't look bad. There's just not a whole lot to say. It's basically just GCI's Millennium Flyer, and then they put the Thunderhead logo on the front of the train. Like, basically the design of the train is the design of the logo. So,
I mean, I do like it.
It doesn't look bad. It's just, I guess, if we're gonna...
I like it better than, like, some of the normal looking.
Like, if it just didn't have any design on it whatsoever. Yeah.
Like, I like it because it's open. Like,
it is kind of open, which is kind of interesting.
Like, that's what I like about it.
If I remember correctly, when I was writing it, I'm having this memory of, like, one of the trains had the logo, and then the other one was just completely open. Like, nothing on the front. I'm trying to remember if that was... I might be thinking about Lightning Rod. Or maybe both were like that. Because I know Lightning Rod was like that. But
I've seen a lot of wooden coasters, or any for that matter, that have, like, that openness.
Yeah. I do like it when they put the logo on the coaster train, too.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty common, but there are some coasters that don't do that. And
right.
So, sometimes from a thematic standpoint, it actually makes sense not to do that. Like, one that comes to mind immediately is Copperhead Strike, where the train is designed to look like a car. And so instead of slapping the logo on the hood of the car, they just designed it to look like a car. So I'm like, from a thematic element, or thematic aspect, I guess it kind of makes sense in some instances. But
yeah.
Anyway. I do like the logo. Like, the logo's not super complicated. You know, it's pretty basic, but I've seen the logo in a lot of different colors and not a lot of different fonts, but a lot of different colors, but it's always got that same where it, like, tapers off on the ends. So at least they kind of stick to the design of the logo, and we're consistent with that. So
yeah.
Let's see. Let's get the park's description of the ride here.
Boy. Saddle up, guys.
This one's not very long, so.
Aww.
Carefully situated between two mountains, this massive wooden coaster stands tall among the mighty trees and takes advantage of the area's rough and tumble terrain to create a daring ride featuring a 100-foot drop and a top speed of 55 miles per hour. There you go. I did also want to point out on here, we talked about this during our Busch Gardens trip report. During the spring and fall seasons, the social behavior of bees and wasps changes,
so crazy,
causing them to swarm our tall attractions.
I've never, until we went to Busch Gardens,
I had never heard of that, and now I'm hearing it all the time. I'm like, what is
what the heck?
just the recency bias that I'm seeing this now? I don't know. This is funny, though. During the warmest part of the day, there are bees and wasps flying around the top of this attraction. We encourage each guest to use discretion when deciding to ride. So they're basically like, if you're allergic, don't ride. Like, they don't close the ride like Busch Gardens does. They're just kind of like, use your discretion. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Enough, but still?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. It makes more sense to me for, like, because Apollo's Chariot was the one that had that at Busch Gardens, which that one, you're, like, going over a lot of really tall airtime hills. Yeah. So, to me, there's parts of the ride you could be going full speed and there'd be wasps there. Where this ride, once you get down the first drop, it kind of stays low to the ground, so maybe it's not as big of a deal. Anyway, it's kind of interesting how they both handle that very differently. Yeah. So. Customer reviews, everybody's favorite, right? So. No? Yes. I was making sure it was your favorite at least. So.
Yeah. I like when you read the description. I think so.
Oh, is that your favorite? So.
I do. I mean, only because you're my husband and I never hear you talk like that, except for the...
I would hope I don't talk like that.
It's just funny. I don't know.
We're just like out to dinner and I'm like, can I get the buffalo wings and the...
Gosh, I dare you to do that. I dare you.
Oh, dear. Here's 5 stars. It was awesome. A great roller coaster. And I'm not a huge fan of wood coasters, so that says a lot. As a whole, really enjoyed Dollywood. Beautiful landscaping and great attractions. So, high praise there. Here's another 5 star. I'm shocked to say this is my favorite coaster in the park. I like wooden coasters well enough, but this one leaves them in the dust. I kind of have to say, like, Thunderhead to me was a big surprise from our trip. You know that if you listen to our Dollywood trip report, but it was a lot closer to Lightning Rod than I thought it was going to be. I thought, you know, Wild Eagle or Big Bear Mountain or maybe even Mystery Mine would be my number 2. And when I got off Thunderhead, I'm like, wow, I can see why other enthusiasts praise this ride so much. So, one more 5 star here. An absolute awesome wooden coaster for sure. Doesn't give you wheeze, but what a wild ride. 20 out of 10 for me. My new number 1. Ride it. Absolute awesomeness. Yeah, 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 yeah. This person was very excited to write this review.
Go decaf. My goodness.
That is the only review they've ever left on Google too. So
yep.
they were very excited about Thunderhead.
Very passionate.
Oh, it was 3 weeks ago too, so that's very recent.
Maybe that's why he has never done it before.
Wow,
he's new. Yeah. He's new to leaving reviews.
There you go.
He felt so passionate.
So he's like, I've never loved anything so much that I would leave a review, but I have to leave a review for Thunderhead. Oh, that is awesome. Here's 1 star. I will definitely need a chiropractor after riding the Thunderhead roller coaster. It was the most jarring, torturous 2.5 minutes of my life. Wow. Never again. I'm 48 and in good shape. I was whipped around like a rag doll the whole ride. No thanks. I would say, like, wooden coasters in particular are kind of an acquired taste for some people. Like, if you don't like the rumble and the whipping back and forth, like, you're just not gonna like Thunderhead. So if you don't like wooden coasters, you're not gonna like Thunderhead. That's just what it is. And I'm not judging anybody for that. Like, if wooden coasters aren't your cup of tea, power to you. That's your opinion. So here's 1 star. It would be a great coaster if not so rough. Of all my travels to theme parks, Thunderhead is the roughest, most violent roller coaster that I have ever been on. And to this person, I would say, have you been on Wild Mouse at Lagoon? Or Zambezi Zinger?
It's true, Zambezi Zinger.
Like, I've been on a lot of coasters the past, few years, and Thunderhead is probably one of the smoothest wooden coasters I've been on during that time frame, so it's kind of interesting. But 2 stars. Forceless, does very little. What? 0 sense of speed. What? Just crosses over itself a bunch of times. What? Worst of the big coasters there. This is like an interesting thing with, like, some enthusiasts that just, like, if it doesn't go 95 miles an hour, I don't like it. Like, it's like...
Okay.
If it's not, 95 miles an hour or has ejector throw me out of my seat and fling me to the moon airtime, like, that is just boring. And I've always
boring.
Well, I've always been of the opinion that, like, roller coasters are like, I don't know. There's a lot of different examples I could use, but it's like listening to music. Like, you have your favorite song, but that doesn't mean that, like, the 100 of other songs in your playlist you don't enjoy. You just have others that you enjoy more than others.
Right.
And so that's how I've always been as an enthusiast, is like, I enjoy Big Thunder Mountain. Do I enjoy Big Thunder Mountain as much as Fury 325? No. But I still enjoy both of them. And some enthusiasts, it's like, it's, you know, this is so boring. There's no force. And it's just like, I don't know, you can have fun doing, you know, rides that don't rip your face off. Like,
right.
I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting thing. Some enthusiasts are only enjoy like a small, they're like a food critic, right? Like, you know, you've ever felt that with, like, you read a food critic and you're like, do you even like food? Like, that's how I feel about some enthusiasts. Like, do you even like roller coasters? Like, I hear you complain about them more than I hear you like them. Like,
yeah.
That's probably a better description, is like food critics and coaster enthusiasts. I definitely see that sometimes. So 3 stars, rough ride, not for people over 65. I would say most roller coasters are not really designed for people over 65. Not to say people over 65 can't ride roller coasters, but do it with a grain of salt, right? Like, it's you know, if you're over 65, you know yourself better, but
That's true.
yeah. I can't imagine my grandparents riding Thunderhead. That's what I'm getting at.
I really, really want to put Dennis
But he would
on
not.
the coaster
I
now.
don't think he would survive. It depends what type of coaster, I guess. So, and then
He's the same person, though, that we were going fast on the boat, and he was, like, barely hanging on. And he's like, if I fall off,
just leave me
there.
Okay, Grandpa. You have to understand, the reason we had to record our last episode early is because we had a family reunion the week of Thanksgiving. So we just saw my grandpa on that side of the family, and so that's what Haley's referencing. We went on a fishing trip that one of the mornings, and yeah, he said if he fell off the boat, just to leave him.
So funny. I love your grandpa.
And then here's our last review here. 1 star. Told a worker I loved him, and he didn't say it back. 1 out of 10 experience.
Oh.
That's fair. So, well, there's our introduction to Thunderhead at Dollywood. Let's talk about the history. So let's hop into our time machine and pull down on the lap bar and
Click.
Click, click, click. Keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the time machine at all times. And let's go back to 2003. All right. Before we get to 2003, let's just do a quick little backstory here, kind of to just recap what brought us to where we are today. Because when we did our lightning rod episode, there was a lot to talk about in that episode. Because there's a lot, like...
Yeah.
When we're doing an episode for a coaster that's had a lot of drama, it's so easy to fill the script for that episode. It just you know, there's so much going on. Lightning Rod is a great example of that. For Thunderhead, there hasn't been like a lot of drama, so to speak, so we kind of need to fill in the script with some other things that are kind of going on. And so, also Lightning Rod, we didn't really talk about the history of Dollywood at all because... like, there wasn't time because we had so much to talk about with that story. So, just a little bit. Also, it's a newer coaster, so it's less impacted by the actual history of the park. This is one of Dollywood's earlier coasters, so let's talk a little bit, just a brief recap of Dollywood's history.
Okay.
So 1961 is kind of the very beginnings of the park. A small tourist attraction would open in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, called Rebel Railroad. So, and it was kind of like, you know that place when you went to, where was it? It was just this summer in Pennsylvania when we did that train ride with Parker.
Yeah, it was like over in like Amish country.
Yeah, I can't remember the town it was in, but...
Oh, it was a small town. It was,
I can't remember the name of it. I mean, the Airbnb we stayed at was on a farm. Like, that gives you the idea where we were at.
It was really close to Lancaster, but I can't remember.
Yeah, Lancaster, Hershey, kind of in that general area. Yeah. Anyway, it's very similar to this because it had a steam train, but then it had like a general store and a blacksmith shop and a saloon. So it was kind of like, you know, the train was the main attraction, but then they had like some other stuff there too.
Right.
Unlike what we did this summer, though, the theme was inspired by the centennial of the Civil War, and the train ride let visitors experience attacks by Union soldiers, train robbers, and Native Americans. The train and its riders were protected by Confederate soldiers who fought off the attacks.
Okay.
That is just such 1960s South behavior. Like,
yep.
I mean, and we see that firsthand here because, like, so we're in Arkansas. If you know that, like, we live
very close to Bentonville.
Yeah, and so we live in like the northern part of Arkansas, and there was forever, for the longest time, a statue of a Confederate soldier in town square, where, you know, here where I grew up, until like 4 or 5 years ago they finally took it and moved it somewhere else. So that's just the South. There's kind of this problematic situation of like supporting the Confederacy, like, and it's like
it's very strange.
So granted, this is in the 60s. It was a little bit more accepted back then. I'm not gonna say it was right, but, you know, there wasn't gonna be backlash for something like this in the 60s, not like there would be today. So the attraction was the second of its kind, the first being Tweetsie Railroad in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Okay. So I guess it was owned by two brothers that decided they wanted to do one in Pigeon Forge too. Apparently Tweetsie Railroad is still open today too, but it's still just a railroad. It didn't end up, you know, turning into an amusement park or anything. Rebel Railroad would go through a few name changes, being changed to Gold Rush Junction in 1964, and then just to Gold Rush in 1975. I think when they did that, they moved away from the Civil War theme and went to like a Wild West theme, which is much less problematic.
Yeah, it's better. Getting better.
Yes, so. And then in 1976, Gold Rush would be purchased by the Herschend family, which we've talked about the whole story of Silver Dollar City in our Fire in the Hole episode. So if you want to hear the whole story of the Herschend family and how Silver Dollar City came to be and all that, you can go listen to that episode. But where we're talking, this is 16 years after Silver Dollar City was founded in Branson, Missouri. And so they were looking to expand their operations to other areas, and Pigeon Forge seemed like a very similar fit to Branson.
Yeah.
Which, if you go to Branson and Pigeon Forge / Gatlinburg nowadays, they are very similar. So Pigeon Forge, I feel like there's a little bit more like outdoors and a little bit more like, I don't know. Branson has a little bit more on the entertainment side, where Pigeon Forge is a little bit more on the outdoor side, I feel like.
Right.
But still very similar in like a touristy area. So
right.
Gold Rush was renamed to Silver Dollar City in 1977. So now you have Silver Dollar City Branson and Silver Dollar City Pigeon Forge. I actually think I think it was Silver Dollar City and then Silver Dollar City, Tennessee is how they differentiated them. So the following year, the park would open its first roller coaster, Blazing Fury, which is a carbon copy of the original Fire in the Hole. And Blazing Fury is still there to this day, even though the original Fire in the Hole is gone. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. It's okay. It's basically the same thing.
It's true. You basically have you do have Fire in the Hole at Silver Dollar City again. It's
the same thing.
It's just, it's like if Led Zeppelin came back from the dead to re-record a song from 1976 nowadays. You're like, oh, well, it's still the same thing. It's just brand new instead of 50 years old. So,
it's weird.
I don't know. I like classic rock. That's the first thing that came to mind. So.
Okay.
For years, Fire in the Hole and Blazing Fury would be the only coasters at either of these parks. For I think for like 20 years. Like, that was the only roller coasters they had. While all the other parks in the country are building, like, these looping coasters as they become a thing. And, like, I don't know, the Herschends just didn't, like, I don't know, roller coasters weren't much of a focus, I guess. So then in 1986, Dolly Parton, who grew up in the Pigeon Forge area, bought 50% ownership in the Silver Dollar City location in Tennessee. As part of the deal, the park reopened for the 1986 season as Dollywood. So from that point on, the parks definitely are similar, but they kind of split in the way that they're operated, just slightly. Where like Silver Dollar City is still 1880s theme, Dollywood is now like has some parts that still feel like Silver Dollar City, but then there's other parts that are designed more like towards Dolly's childhood or like Tennessee history and different things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's why like Dollywood is kind of this weird like, okay, this feels like Silver Dollar City, but then you go into like this 50s hot rod area that doesn't. It's kind of an interesting little thing there. But in 1989, Dollywood would open Thunder Express, an aerodynamics mine train, which was then followed up in 1993 when Silver Dollar City opened Thunderation, which was their aerodynamics mine train. So, both parks are kind of playing off of each other. Like, okay, this roller coaster worked here, so let's build another one over here, and vice versa. So then 1998, Thunder Express would be demolished for Tennessee Tornado, which we talked about earlier. It's an aerodynamics looping coaster. And that kind of takes us to where our story starts today. I guess the only other thing I'll say is following Tennessee Tornado, Silver Dollar City opened Buzzsaw Falls in 1999, and then Wildfire, which is basically their looping coaster, in 2001. They didn't go with aerodynamics for Wildfire, I'm guessing because aerodynamics basically went bankrupt after Tennessee Tornado, so they kind of went the B&M direction instead, but that's essentially their Tennessee Tornado is Wildfire. So then after Silver Dollar City got a couple investments, now it's time for Dollywood to get their next investment. But they already had Tennessee Tornado, so they didn't make sense for B&M to come in and do Wildfire 2.0, so to speak.
Right.
So they're trying to decide on what to do.
Okay.
Now, at this point, there's actually a third park in the Herschend chain, which I think you and I have talked about before. I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show before, though. I don't know if this sounds familiar to you at all, that there was a third park.
It doesn't
sound familiar. So there was actually a second park in Branson that they owned.
Oh, wait. Now that sounds familiar.
Does that sound familiar now? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in 2003, Herschend bought a park called Branson, USA, which was a small amusement park in Branson that had closed in 2001. So it was basically, some other company was trying to build like it's kind of like, in Orlando, you have the Disney World, but then you also have like the Fun Spot parks.
Right.
That's kind of how I look at it. It was like, this was like the budget amusement park if you like wanted to go do amusement park stuff, but didn't want to go to the really expensive one.
Right.
So, but it struggled, didn't really do well, and so it closed down. And so Herschend bought the property and planned to invest in the park and turn it into a second gate for Silver Dollar City. The new park was renamed Celebration City. So, and it wasn't the same theme. Celebration City was more like like turn of the century America. I'm trying to think exactly what it was. It was kind of more like think like Liberty Square at Magic Kingdom, like kind of that kind of vibe.
Okay.
So I guess Liberty, that's more like, I don't know. Yeah, I never actually got to go to Celebration City, so this is more, I'm just kind of, based on pictures and other people's experience, what I'm coming up with here, so I could be totally wrong on that. But now, when Herschend was looking into investments for Celebration City, they decided to turn to a wooden coaster because that's something Silver Dollar City didn't have at this point. So basically gives people a reason to go to Celebration City because that's, there's different things at each park, right? Mm-hmm. So at this point, GCI was by far the number one wooden coaster manufacturer. So they had just done, their most recent project they had done at this point was Lightning Racer at Hershey Park. So we're both familiar with that one. And then before that, they had done they did their first one. It was Wildcat at Hershey Park, and then there's some others in there as well. But so Herschend hired GCI to come in and design a custom wooden coaster for Celebration City. And that was Ozark Wildcat, which is this one right here.
That looks like fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
Still there?
It is not spoilers, but you always do that.
I always do this.
You can't stand it.
can't
I gotta know.
You know me. I'm not patient. I am not a patient person.
It's interesting because there's a picture here that'll kind of give you an idea of where this was. So here's Ozark Wildcat here, and you'll recognize that building right there. That's the Butterfly Palace that we've driven by dozens of times, but never actually gone to.
Go. Next time we go.
So if memory serves me correctly, further down this way is like the IMAX theater, and then there's like a bunch of shops and stuff down the road
Something
this way.
like that, yeah.
So that kind of gives you an idea of where Celebration City was. And I drove past Celebration City so many times when I was a kid. I don't know why we never went. Probably because their main attraction was a wooden coaster that I wouldn't have gone on and my sister wouldn't have gone on. So it was really just for my dad. Where Silver Dollar City at least had some stuff that, I would go on.
Yeah.
And then, by the time I got into coasters, this was no longer open. But I drove by I've seen Ozark Wildcat so many times. So it's weird to me that, I've seen this coaster so many times, never actually rode it. But I remember seeing it so many times and being like, it looks scary. So that's essentially what I thought. I would never ride that, but
yeah. Not anymore. You'd be all over this.
Well, now it's a really rare credit because it wasn't around for very long. We'll get to that later in the episode, but it's a really rare credit now, and so I'm kind of bummed that I know. Oh, man, I would have forced you. I know I would have had such a a cool story to tell other enthusiasts if I'd been able to get on it because. True. Yeah, it's a rare credit nowadays, unfortunately. So, rude. Very rude. Okay. So, Ozark Wildcat, 80 feet tall, 45 miles per hour, and 2,613 feet tall. So, still on the smaller side compared to some of the other GCI coasters, but I don't think they had a huge plot of land to work with, so it was kind of, whatever they could fit there. Right. Ozark Wildcat and Celebration City would open to the public on May 1st, 2003. So what does any of this have to do with, our story in Dollywood? Well, 2 months later, Dollywood makes an announcement on June 27th, 2003. They announced Thunderhead, a brand new wooden coaster for the 2004 season. Also built by GCI. It'd be slightly taller, faster, and longer than Ozark Wildcat. So the fact that these two coasters were built within a year of each other, to me, suggests that they were bought in a bundle. I haven't seen any confirmation of that, but it makes sense to me. At the very least, it seems like Herschend built this one first and was like, okay, this is working. We're happy with this product. Let's go ahead and move forward with the same thing at Dollywood. Mm-hmm. But they had more space to work with at Dollywood, so let's, build a bigger one. Right. So to me, that's what makes sense. They're both in the same chain. They're both built within 12 months of each other. Same company, same style. Anyway, just makes sense that they're kind of related in that sense, even though I haven't seen anybody confirm that they were bought in a bundle. But anyway. So Thunderhead would be the centerpiece for a brand new section of the park called Thunderhead Gap. Here's a quote from the senior VP from the park at the time. Thunderhead will provide thrills for folks of all ages with drops, twists, and turns, plus for parents and grandparents, memories of some of the great old wooden coasters that come thundering back. This entirely new area to Dollywood named Thunderhead Gap will also tell the special story of the Smoky Mountains and its history as a major logging center. So this is where I told you at the beginning of the episode that there's a more to the story of the name behind just it being the name of a storm cloud. Yeah. So, because that was my assumption. It's just Thunderhead. It's that's what in the South that's what people call the big cumulonimbus clouds is like I didn't know that was a southern slang term for cumulonimbus clouds, thunderhead. I've just heard that my whole life and didn't realize that was a southern word. So I feel like it's probably more widespread now.
Thunderhead?
Yeah. Oh no, you don't know that word? You didn't know that word? Okay, maybe it is a southern thing.
No, I was like, Thunderhead. When you were like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense. I'm like,
you're like, thunder? I don't know.
Yeah, general public is just sitting here shaking their head. Yeah.
That's so funny that's a southern slang term. I had no idea.
I mean, it could not be. I just might have never heard it. But
that's true. That's true. So.
All right. Well, maybe we'll ask.
Here's a question. Comment below. Did you use the word thunderhead growing up? Like, was that a term you were familiar with? And still doesn't sound right.
I can't even say it.
I wouldn't, like, if I was a kid and I looked up, I would have just said storm cloud. I wouldn't have said, like, whoa, look at that thunderhead. Like, that wasn't, like, part of my vocabulary. But if someone said thunderhead, like, my assumption was, like, storm cloud. That's, just kind of it's not part of my vocabulary, but I was familiar with what it meant. It's just that makes sense.
It just doesn't even sound familiar to me. Like, I've never heard of a thunderhead before.
That's so funny. No. What do you know? So the story for the ride is actually based off of a real logging company from the area, the Little River Rail and Lumber Company, which cleared 560 million feet of timber from the Smoky Mountains from 1901 to 1938. Talk about eco-terrorism. 560 million feet of timber. That's insane. That's so much. Sad. That is so much wood.
That makes me really, really
I know,
sad.
Right? One of the most notable areas that was logged during this time is a 5,527-foot peak called Thunderhead Mountain, which is about 18 and a half miles southwest of the park. So it's actually the coaster's actually named from a peak that's kind of close by to the park. I've heard that if you could look in the right direction while you're on Wild Eagle, you may be able to see Thunderhead Mountain. But we're also talking about the Smoky Mountains, which are kind of, I mean, they have that name for a reason. It gets really foggy in that area. So you'd have to have a really clear day to be able to see 18 miles away. And you'd have to, I don't know. Wild Eagle's the highest point in the park when you're on the lift hill. So that's really the only... Well, I guess maybe on Drop Line you might be able to see it too. The drop tower that they have at the park. Because that's pretty tall too.
I would never get on it.
I'm tempted. I'm tempted to try it at least once. So I'm not like scared of drop towers. They just I don't know. They're not my cup of tea. I know you hate it. You hate it.
Oh, just the feeling. Oh.
Well, because drop line doesn't even it doesn't shoot you up and then you fall down. It
it
slowly rises to the top. And then you spin around the top for 10, 15 seconds before it drops.
I would die.
How tall is drop line?
No, we're not looking this up.
I think it's 300.
No, we're not looking this up. No, we're not looking this up. Stop. Oh my gosh, you're making me sick.
I think it's 300. Oh, it's 230 feet. Okay, it's not as tall as I thought. So, no, the one at Busch Gardens, Tampa, cool. that one's really tall. Anyway. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So it's named after Thunderhead Mountain, which is close by. Now, when timber was cut high in the mountains, there was a few different ways that they could bring it back to the valleys. Interestingly enough, one of those ways is they would ride the logs down a river, down from the top of the mountains, which is actually the idea for the very first roller coasters came from that, which is kind of funny. Well, and cool. Log flumes and stuff.
Yeah.
All that comes from timber workers back in the day. But another way they could do it is they would actually build a semi-permanent railroad system that basically just went up the mountain and back down. And so they could take a steam engine up there, load it up with wood, and then take it back down the mountain. Now, the problem is that can be very dangerous if the brakes give out on a train going downhill carrying heavy lumber.
Yeah.
And so that was the inspiration for the story behind Thunderhead, is basically you're on a runaway lumber train.
Oh my gosh, that's scary.
So, And then the whole idea was like it was on Thunderhead Mountain, which is, close by the park. So that's where it all comes from. Park officials were optimistic that Thunderhead would help increase the park's attendance by 25% over the next 5 years. So it's pretty impressive. I don't know if it actually hit that number, but I wouldn't be surprised. So the wooden coaster also made a lot of sense strategically for Dollywood because the closest major parks in that area, the closest one is Carowinds, which is about 4.5 hours away. And then King's Dominion and Busch Gardens Williamsburg are about 6 to 7 hours, kind of in that time frame. Carowinds had a couple wooden coasters, but they're older and smaller. King's Dominion was kind of the same way. Their newest wooden coaster at that point was Grizzly, which opened in 1982. And then Busch Gardens Williamsburg had no wooden coasters at this time. They didn't have Busch Gardens Williamsburg didn't have a wooden coaster until like 2018 or something like that.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild? When they built Invader, I don't remember if that was 18 or 19. Invader was their first wooden coaster, which is wild. They were just all about the steel coasters. So,
I mean, I guess that's fine, but still, that's strange.
Yeah, well, Silver Dollar City, same way. First wooden coaster in 2013 was when Silver Dollar City got their first wooden coaster. It's weird that some parks, that's like all they have. Like Kennywood, right? Kennywood's had wooden coasters since wooden coasters existed, basically. Like, or like Holiday World's, had tons of wooden coasters. Kings Island has like 4 or 5. I think they have 5 wooden coasters at Kings Island. So it's just funny how different parks are. Like, some have tons of wooden coasters and others are like, maybe we should build a wooden coaster. And it's like the 21st century. Like, so. Thunderhead was designed in a way that it would integrate seamlessly with the natural surroundings. To this day, the surroundings and the foliage around the coaster, like, it's really beautiful. It's kind of grown around the coaster. So, yeah, it looks really nice. I have some really cool pictures of Thunderhead for that reason.
Did you take those pictures, Nathan?
I did take... There's one in particular that I took that I'm really happy with. It actually was... My phone, it randomly generates what my screensaver is, and it showed up on my phone today. It's not now, but there's one that I took. If you go back not behind the coaster, but if you go towards Dragonflyer and Big Bear Mountain, there's a really cool shot that you can get of the lift hill, and then there's kind of like trees on either side of it, kind of framing it. So yeah, it's really cool.
Well, here's a little fun fact about Nathan. Not only does he do podcasts and ride roller coasters, but he loves to take pictures of the coasters. You've mentioned
this in other episodes before. I understand that,
but you don't get enough credit. So much so that, like, when he posts his pictures, other parks have reposted his picture. I'm like, that's cool, right?
I just need better equipment is really what it comes down to. But I also don't have, like, the time to sit there and, like, set up a tripod and, like...
I know. I wish you did, because you're really good at it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, it's very beautiful. So, Thunderhead would also be the first coaster in the world to feature a station flyby. Do you know what that means? So, during the midpoint of the ride, the track goes back through the station, and it's about 8 feet above the loading dock. So, let's see if we can find a picture here on the... there's not any pictures of the station here. We'll have to see if we can find a picture. But basically, you're sitting there. The train is kind of, the loading station is in front of you. And then if you look up, there's a section of track that goes through the station, like I said, like 8 feet above you. And it'll fly through that section of the station. Yeah. So it's really cool because the element provides, it's basically like a tunnel when you're actually on the ride, you're basically going through the tunnel.
Yeah.
But then when you're in the station, like, it's just building the anticipation of getting on the ride.
Well, yeah.
Because it flies through there at 40 miles an hour. Like, it just flies through and then, onto the second half of the ride. So
cool.
There's a few other coasters that have done that since then, including there's one in Europe where there's actually the coaster comes up and does a corkscrew through the station and then flips back over as it leaves.
What?
That is just so cool. I think that is the greatest
that
idea.
That is really cool.
So you basically, you're like flipping upside down.
Could you imagine,
as you're going through the station? That is so
what
cool.
if someone pooped right then?
There's probably a net. I would have to look and see, but
just a net? It doesn't catch everything.
It's the risk and reward, I suppose.
Gross. I bet it's happened.
I don't know. For all the times we've been to the parks, we've only actually seen that happen one time. So I don't know how often it happens. I know it happens, but you and I have only seen it happen one time with all the times that we've been to amusement parks and stuff. So
I guess.
So who knows? The flyby is also kind of enhances the story, as the station is meant to symbolize the sawmill, suggesting that the runaway lumber train can't slow down, and then it just goes on through the sawmill and keeps going down the mountain.
I like that.
So it's kind of, part of how the ride was designed to match with the story as well. So.
Well, I like how coasters do that they like keep going and fit the theme. Like, I just think it's just, I don't know, it makes it more enjoyable for me.
Well, it's funny because, like, for people that are just there and like, oh, Thunderhead, wooden coaster, hop in line, and then, they don't notice any of these things. But for people like you and I that really dive into the details, like, I feel like it makes it more enjoyable for them.
Love me some good detail. Bring on all the detail.
Speaking of detail, you want some construction stats?
Yes.
That's
I love
three episodes in a row, baby. It's so hard to find these sometimes. It's just amazing. 3 episodes in a row that we've had construction stats. Here we go. 700,000 feet of southern yellow pine wood, 3,600 yards of concrete, 250,000 bolts. This is a new one. 2 million screws.
Whoa.
I've never seen a screw statistic. I don't know how you count.
All right, Jeff. Make sure to count your screws today.
I doubt they count.
Don't forget.
I don't think
you miscounted. Go recount.
How would they know they miscounted?
Exactly.
I don't think they're counting it as their 1, 2. I think they probably counted how many they ordered after the fact. Is probably how they did that.
No, I like my story.
You like your story better. Last one here, 185,000 feet of steel rebar. So, crazy. By January of 2004, construction was well underway. Only about 15% of the track was remaining. So, and then in the next, I don't know exactly when they finished and started testing, but the Thunderhead did open when it was supposed to, no delays or anything, on April 3rd. I know, right? April 3rd, 2004, Thunderhead opens to the public and continues to operate to this day. The ride experience is as follows. The train exits the station and turns right. From there, it makes its way through a slight left turn and climbs the 100-foot chain lift hill. Upon reaching the top, the train drops 100 feet to the right, hitting the top speed of 54 miles per hour. This is followed by a left-handed curve and an ascent into a right-hand turn that drops back down to ground level. After a quick left turn, the train ascends over a small airtime hill and then back to the left again before dropping back down to the right. After another small airtime hill, the train ascends into a large right-banked curve that drops slightly before the station flyby at 40 miles per hour, 8 feet above the loading station. After a small dip and a banked airtime hill to the left, the train drops down to the right down to ground level before flying over 2 airtime hills. After a 270-degree turn to the left, the train pops over a small off-axis airtime hill and into a 270-degree turn to the right. After one final ascent to the left, the train hits the final brakes. In total, the layout features 22 turns and crosses over itself 32 times. Whoa. So it is a very much,
it's condensed.
We've talked about, there's not a, here, I think I have a good picture here. Here's a good picture of the actual layout, just kind of from above. So you can see that, like, once you get off that lift hill, it just kind of winds in and out of itself over and over. Bowl. Very much so. That's exactly what I was going to say, is like we've talked about coasters that like have spaghetti bowl layouts where it's, you know, very twisted and around itself and tied up in a big knot, basically. And then you have other wooden coasters where it like goes out one direction and then it comes back the other direction. So this is definitely more of that spaghetti bowl layout and just kind of twisting in and around itself. So critics and enthusiasts raved about the intensity and the way it utilized the terrain, but also how smooth it was for a wooden coaster, which is kind of how I felt when I rode Thunderhead. I'll talk more about my thoughts in a minute here, but yeah, it's definitely very smooth was the impression a lot of people had. Many people felt that it could very well be one of the best wooden coasters ever constructed.
Wow.
It was pretty high praise.
That was a really high praise.
And of course, no episode about Dollywood would be complete without talking about Miss Dolly Parton herself.
I love Dolly! Click, check.
Who, of course, was there for the opening ceremony of Thunderhead. Here's the picture right here. So she was there. I like this description here. Singer Dolly Parton Wright, dressed as a lumberjack except for the high heel boots.
Love that woman.
Tries to get out of going along the inaugural ride of the Thunderhead, a new $7 million roller coaster during season opening festivities at Dollywood. So
she's just so funny because she didn't want to ride Big Bear.
Well, she's always there for Mystery Mine and Lightning Rod, like all these coasters we've talked about. She's always there for the opening of the coaster. Absolutely will not get on it though. So, to each their own, right? So,
yep.
It's pretty funny. This article is pretty funny too. I'm not going to read the whole thing. She basically says in this article, she's like, "I'm never going to retire. Like, I'm just going to keep, you know, doing my music and, you know, different things."
I believe
Here's I'll just read this quote. She says, "I will never retire. I hope to fall dead in the middle of some great event or some great song I'm singing."
And I believe her. I believe her 100%.
Then they'll say, "Oh, well, she went happy and doing what she loves."
Amen, sister. Amen.
Oh my gosh, she cracks me up.
She's
so funny.
So cute. I want to meet her in the worst way. If I could pick a celebrity to meet, I think it'd be her.
That was such a bummer. Like when we were at Dollywood, didn't we find out she had been there the day before we got there? And we're like, no.
It's so sad.
As if we would have been able to meet her when we were there, but
I
still.
I would be able to see her at least. That would have been so cool.
So that was pretty funny. Thunderhead was a huge success for Dollywood. The addition kind of came at a time where, as we talked about, Herschend was kind of hesitant to start getting into the thrill attractions. And then, you know, I think Thunderhead's kind of on the back end of them deciding, oh, like these are actually really working for us. Because before this was Tennessee Tornado and Wildfire and Buzzsaw Falls and some of these other ones. But this was kind of like the last straw that kind of said, okay, I think we're going to this is our new niche, right? It's like, this is the new thing for us. And so they kind of figured it out a little later than some of the other, you know, big chains like Six Flags and Cedar Fair. But Six Flags was also kind of struggling at this time. So the timing kind of worked out for, you know, Herschend to kind of get into the thrill ride scene at the same time as Six Flags kind of backing off of it. So I saw conflicting reports on if Thunderhead won the Golden Ticket Award for Best New Attraction of 2004. Seems like it was the highest ranked coaster that was built that year, but that wasn't an award they gave out until like 2006 or something like that. So you could say it won the Golden Ticket Award for Best New Ride of 2004, but it kind of didn't. I don't know. We'll say it was the best coaster built in the States in 2004 is probably the best way that you could put that. But in the years that followed, it would win the award for Best Wooden Coaster in the World in 2005 and 2006. So it did end up winning some Golden Ticket Awards, which I think, if I open up this picture here, this picture actually, one of the best ways you can get a better look at Thunderhead is by riding the train, because the train goes around the back side of the coaster that you can't see otherwise. So you see they have this sign that's on the side of the coaster that you can't even see from the path, but if you ride the train you can see the sign, Thunderhead, wildest ride in the woods, and then there are two little Golden Ticket Awards there, so it's pretty cool. I think they actually put the Golden Ticket Awards on the entrance sign for a while, too. But it's been a long time since those awards were won, so they may not have those up anymore. So, let's see. Oh, that I was going to mention. So in 2007, it finished second in the wooden coaster rankings, being overtaken by the coaster we talked about in our last episode, the Voyage at Holiday World. So those two very big wooden coasters we've talked about back-to-back weeks. So
there you go.
Yeah, so
that's not a coincidence. Or is it?
It actually kind of is. I didn't even realize that the Voyage overtook Thunderhead in 2007. I was just like, oh, that's kind of funny. We talked about those in back-to-back weeks. So in the years that followed, the park would continue to invest in coasters because of the success of Thunderhead. So they'd open Mystery Mine in 2007, Wild Eagle in 2012. And then from 2014 to 2023, they built 5 roller coasters. Like, they were just, like, cranking them out. So even more so than... like, Silver Dollar City definitely invests in coasters, but not the same way that Dollywood does. And it kind of makes me sad. I wish Silver Dollar City would build more coasters. And hopefully with these apparently... What was it? Apparently $1 billion they're investing over the next 10 years. I can't remember what the number was.
That was crazy.
It was a big number. Yeah. Some of that certainly is going to some new roller coasters, right?
We hope.
It has to.
We hope.
It has to. So, but they did invest in Silver Dollar City as well with Powder Keg the following year in 2005.
Build, something silly, like a lookout tower or something dumb like that.
I mean, there's going to be stuff that's not roller coasters too, obviously. But, I mean, their last big record-breaking roller coaster was 2018. It's been 6 years now. So I'm going to say that my prediction is 2026. There's going to be a big roller coaster that opens in 26.
I hope so.
So not 25. That's the, they're working on they're working on the resort obviously right now. So, but once the resort's done, then it's roller coaster time. That's what I'm saying. So
it's roller coaster time.
So, but they did invest in Silver Dollar City. Powder Keg opens in 2005, and then Outlaw Run in 2013, and Time Traveler in 2018. So what about Celebration City? Because that's kind of Celebration City is strange in this story because it's kind of related, kind of not. But also, when I was writing the script, I'm like, what other coaster would I talk about Celebration City? And there's not. Like, there's no other story where Celebration City comes into play unless you're talking about one of the other smaller coasters that got relocated. We'll talk about it here. So Herschend invested $40 million into the park in 2003, which included Ozark Wildcat. But the park was struggling to meet financial expectations. Herschend added a log flume in 2008. But the park just was never really making enough money to warrant another big addition. And so in October of 2008, which was, it's only 5 years that the park was open, Herschend announced the permanent closure of Celebration City. So only 5 years that Ozark Wildcat was open. So that's why I say it's a very rare credit that not a lot of people got it. I know. So woe is me.
Yep.
So the park began relocating attractions from the park in the years that followed. Their SNS Double Shot Tower now operates at Silver Dollar City as Firefall. So that drop tower that's over in Fireman's Landing, that came from Celebration City. A few flat rides went to Wild Adventures, which is another Herschend-owned park. The roller coaster Jackrabbit was sold to Fun Spot Kiss Me, where it continues to operate as Hurricane. And then Glenwood Caverns bought Thunderbolt, which now operates as Cliffhanger at Glenwood Caverns there in Colorado. So, by the way, look at the view that you get on Cliffhanger here. That is crazy. Like, that is such a crazy view that you get on that. They're really pretty.
It's really pretty.
Yeah.
If it got stuck there... Did that make you almost spit out your
almost
soda?
spit out my drink. Glenwood Caverns is an interesting park. I'd love to go there someday. It's like so far out of the way from anywhere else that we go, though. But the whole park is built like on a mountain. and
so
like
cool.
it's really pretty. There's
I've got some friends in
the
Colorado.
the barn swing at Silver Dollar City.
Yeah.
They have a smaller version. It's like the one that we saw at Fun Spot Atlanta, where it's basically the same ride, but it's like cut in half the size. They have one at Glenwood Caverns that goes up and over the side of a cliff.
Excuse me? Why?
Because people love that kind of stuff.
That's stupid.
Yeah, people love it.
No.
So, not as bad as the Stratosphere, though. Those are the kind of rides that I think you might literally die if they put you on one of those rides. So,
No, thank you.
So a bunch of these rides get relocated, but Ozark Wildcat was the tricky one because the coaster is only 5 years old and was a top 25 wooden coaster in the world at the time. But wooden coasters are just so much harder to relocate than steel coasters. It's not impossible because it's been done before, but it's way harder than relocating a steel coaster. So for years, Ozark Wildcat just sat there, and I probably didn't realize it for a long time, but a lot of the times that I drove by Ozark Wildcat, I probably didn't even realize it wasn't even open. Because it was there from 2008 when the park closed. It was there till 2015, just kind of collecting dust. And then finally, no interested buyers collecting dust. They demolished it in 2015. So Ozark Wildcat is no more. So now its memory lives on as a quote unquote spiritual predecessor to Thunderhead, so to speak. So that's really the only memory we have of Ozark Wildcat. So, as I mentioned earlier, Thunderhead's success led to many additional coasters over the years. But the one thing I wanted to talk about, just kind of talk about the impact Thunderhead has had on Dollywood. A lot of people liked that Thunderhead used the terrain to its advantage rather than, having a landscaping crew come in and just flatten the ground and plop a coaster down. And that does make construction more difficult, but it allows the coaster to kind of flow with the natural terrain and makes it more picturesque and exciting for the guests. And that's kind of become a staple among coasters constructed at Dollywood, like Wild Eagle and Lightning Rod. They basically just use the terrain as the starting point for designing the coaster's layout. So it's not, let's take this layout and find where it fits. It's like, let's find a spot we want to build the coaster, and let's design a layout to fit that plot of land, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
So, and Silver Dollar City has kind of done that too.
Yeah.
With like Outlaw Run and Time Traveler, just kind of use the terrain to their advantage, and even Thunderation back in '93 basically did that as well. So
yeah, I love how they used that for Outlaw Run.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that just adds to the ride.
Well, and I think
if
I'm just thinking in my head, I think all of the coasters at Silver Dollar City, their drop is taller than their height. Wildfire is that way, Powder Keg's that way, Outlaw Run is that way, Time Traveler's that way.
I mean, that's what they did with Phantom.
Yeah, Phantom's a good example of that too. So it's not uncommon, but I definitely think Thunderhead, people enjoyed that, and so they've kind of said, why don't we just keep doing that? Use the landscape to our advantage here. So this April, Thunderhead celebrated its 20th birthday, which is why I wanted to talk about Thunderhead during this season, it being Thunderhead's 20th anniversary season. Happy birthday. It's pretty cool. And like I mentioned earlier, despite being 20 years old, enthusiasts seem to be loving the coaster just as much as ever.
Has it been retracted all?
Yes, they've retracted a lot, and they've really done a great job of taking care of it. Which, when you only have one wooden... Well, used to have 2 wooden coasters at the park. Now Lightning Rod is technically steel. That's a whole other debacle to discuss, but... No,
we're not talking about that right now.
But Thunderhead is now technically the only wooden coaster at the park, and so that means a lot more attention on your maintenance team can be focused on, keeping Thunderhead in good shape. And I think they've done a really good job of that, because when I rode Thunderhead, I really felt like it's one of the smoothest wooden coasters I've ever been on. And here's my hot take. Thunderhead is my number 1 ranked wooden coaster.
Say what?
All the wooden coasters I've been on, Thunderhead is my number 1 at this point.
You're telling me that you like Thunderhead more than Zambezi Singer.
That's not where I thought that was going.
Come on.
I know it's hard to believe, but no, that's the thing. I actually do really like Zambezi Zinger, but it would be better as a steel coaster. If they just retracted all with the steel Titan track, it would be better.
Yep.
So it's unfortunate, but yeah, I like it more than Prowler. I like it more than Mystic Timbers, and probably the biggest hot take, I like it more than Outlaw Run, which is crazy. I love Outlaw Run, but
shame on you.
If Outlaw Run was as smooth as Thunderhead is, then maybe. But Thunderhead was just very smooth. Trains are very comfortable too. I loved
Dollywood. Take me.
It was either Dollywood or the family reunion. We had to pick. So I really like it has the same trains that Prowler does. And I just, the GCI Millennium Flyers are just really comfortable. I really like those trains. So as opposed to the Infinity Flyers on Zambezi Zinger aren't terrible, but I don't like them as much as the Millennium Flyers. So the coaster, here's what I was going to talk about, how like enthusiasts are loving it more than ever. It jumped 10 spots in the Coaster Bot rankings from last year to this year. Wow. So like people are just really, giving a lot of praise to Thunderhead. Even now in the Golden Ticket Awards, it's still the 4th best wooden coaster in the world, according to the Golden Ticket Awards, after 20 years. So that's, a lot of praise for a coaster that's, now granted, I think Phoenix was built in the 80s, if I remember correctly, and that's rated as the best wooden coaster in the world. So wooden coasters, it's kind of a, they can age like a fine wine, so to speak. But Thunderhead wood coasters, it's interesting. They can either age really well and people like enjoy it just as much as they used to, or if they age really poorly, it happens fast, like Wildcat at Hershey Park. Like there's a reason RMC has made money turning these old wooden coasters into new steel ones, because but I would never want RMC to do that with Thunderhead. Like, don't touch it. They would never do that because they already have Lightning Rod there. But yeah, Thunderhead would be one of those wooden coasters that I'm like, does not need that. It is so good the way it is right now. So
singing your praise.
Yeah. So as Dollywood continues to grow and evolve, Thunderhead's success will remain an integral part of the park's history and continues to inspire future coaster projects and attract new generations of theme park enthusiasts. And that is the history of Thunderhead at Dollywood. So, there you go.
There we go.
We got to go back so that you can get on it, so you can get your rides on Thunderhead. So
yes, please.
So good. So I want to go back so that I can ride Thunderhead. So I was kind of interested because, like I said earlier, my dad wasn't able to ride any of the coasters when we all went to Dollywood as a family, but my parents and my brother got to go back in September for a day. And so my dad got to ride Lightning Rod and Thunderhead and some of these other ones. And so I asked him afterwards, I was like, okay, I want to hear your thoughts. And his number one was Lightning Rod. So I was like, okay, yep, that's to be expected. So his favorite coaster he's ever been on is Steel Vengeance. So that,
makes sense.
These steel RMCs check out. But then his number 2 was Thunderhead, which I was not anticipating because, I feel like as a he enjoys roller coasters, but I wouldn't consider him a coaster enthusiast. Like, he's not really into that community.
Right.
Coaster enthusiasts tend to like wooden coasters more than GP, in my opinion. At least the bigger ones and the older ones. Yeah. And so I was kind of expecting maybe Big Bear Mountain, or probably Wild Eagle is probably the one I would have pegged for his number 2. So when he told me Thunderhead was his number 2, I'm like, right? It's so good. Like, I was so surprised about how much I liked it, but then other people agree. Like, it's better than it looks, and yeah.
I want to go.
Yeah, it's very good. So I just had to sing praise for my number 1 wooden coaster before we wrapped the episode up. So
touche.
No. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast. We've only got one more to go until season 3 is over, which is crazy. But don't worry, we've got to review the Coaster Bot rankings because we love diving into that. Well, at least I do, because I'm a data person, and so diving into the data and the rankings and all that. Oh, I love it. Mixing coasters and data, that's like 2 of my favorite things.
Oh my gosh. You're a data dork.
That's what I do for my job, so.
I like that name.
Data dork.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a Christmas sweater that had, I don't even remember what it said, but it was some joke about Microsoft Excel and then had the big Excel logo on it. I'm like, that's really funny. The Microsoft Excel Christmas sweater.
You have a Christmas sweater.
It's a t-shirt with like a Christmas sweater design on it with roller coasters on it.
I love that shirt. He wears it all the time.
It's my favorite Christmas shirt, so.
It's the only Christmas
That's
shirt.
fair. It's my only Christmas shirt. That's fair. So,
only Christmas shirt.
Yeah, so. But, yeah, we'll have the Coaster Bot ranking review, and then we will also do a preview of new for 2025 coasters. We'll probably do that pretty close to right before Season 4 starts, just to kind of give us more time to see where those new for 2025 coasters are at. And potentially if any new ones get announced. That's not likely, but it's not impossible, so just in case. So nothing is impossible. Well, what's more likely is Six Flags will delay them until 2026 between now and then.
Don't say that. You knock on wood right now.
I mean it. I'm knock on wood. It's not going to do anything. They already delayed some of them from 24 to 25. It's like, really? Anyway, so well, thank you for tuning in to this episode. Anything else from the GP?
Nope.
All right.
We out.
Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one.